So the day has come. It's time to knit the Magda jumper. It's by Skall Studio, and I have wanted to knit it since it first came out, and I didn't have the pattern, and I finally got the perfect yarn for me, I think, and it's very exciting. The yarn I'm using is West Yorkshire Spinners Aran, and it's the Blue Leicester variety. And then it's also using it's about a 2-ply, but sort of close enough to a lace weight, of the wool I got from that big yarn haul I got, where I had to wind it all, which I have a previous video about. It's sort of funny because this isn't going to be a very transportable jumper to knit. So I have some things on the needles for my spring and summer, or I guess it's summer now, but spring and summer, which is so easy to put in your bag and so easy to knit out and about, even taking it on the train or something. This is not like that. This is the bag that I have got all the yarn in. It's probably more than I need of the lace weight than it is the Aran, because obviously the Aran's the main. I spent some time winding the balls, which is very fun. Now that I'm in Edinburgh, I didn't have that ball winder that I had previously, so I've just been putting the hanks on both my feet and sort of sitting there like a toddler and sort of winding it, which is it's fun anyway. It's not so bad. But I'm also having to do it. I've got some other things on the needles which are also using a lot of this yarn that I got from that previous haul, which means that I am spending a long time, and each ball ends up being about 800 meters, so I'm there for a long time, and it's a backbreaker, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I've wound. That's the West Yorkshire Spinners. Lovely brown, and then this is the lace weight. Lovely dark heathered. It's beautiful. I can't describe how happy this makes me. It's sort of indescribable. I have no idea why it makes me so happy, but I just find it so beautiful. And then, yes, this is, come on. Yeah, there we go. And then that is the West Yorkshire Spinners Blueface Leicester. And I think it's brown or dark brown. I've got other hanks here. Dark brown. So I'm very excited. I've got the pattern here. I'm going to do this extra small to small because the half bust measurement is 60 centimeters, so 120 full diameter. That's plenty oversized. The next size up, medium large, is 64 centimeters, half bust. And I mean 8 centimeters actually ends up being quite a lot, so I think extra small should be fine. I'm also not doing a gauge. You can shout at me about it later, but I just find I generally meet gauge. If it's a little bit out, I don't mind so much. And I've done 2 other patterns of Skall Studio, and my finished garment ended up being roughly, if not on gauge anyway. Like, the measurements were all fine, and I like the fit, so I think it should be fine. You also do, you cast on doing the Italian cast on 4mm needles, and you do 2 rows of double knitting. So that's what I'm going to do this morning. I've drunk nearly all my tea, but I have a big teapot full of tea, so I'm just going to keep topping myself up. I've got my audiobook ready, so it's all round a good day. Yeah, let's get started. I'll mention if there's something that goes wrong or a noteworthy aspect into the pattern, but I find these sorts of videos, I really like watching other people construct a garment from start to finish. And also, I've not seen much of Skall Studio, and I think the patterns are really beautiful, and so I would also say I'm not a hugely experienced knitter, so I think it's a good example of something that you're able to do, even if you perhaps might think that you're not able to knit something like this, or if you just sort of want to know what the construction ends up looking like. I'm also going to make a video about sort of things I've been writing about it recently, just in my journal, not on Substack or anything like that, but about sort of like your progression of when you start knitting versus when you have knit for a fairly long time, 2 years, because it's so your tastes rapidly change, and I think that's through knitting you suddenly become much more experimental, and I feel like my tastes have changed quite a lot, and it's quite funny and maybe relatable for other people. But yeah, otherwise, enjoy the video. I might periodically speak later on, but maybe not. So enjoy. So what you're seeing here is I have to gauge how much yarn I'm going to need to cast on these 100 and so stitches. And basically, I don't have a preferred method for this. This is the method I chose because I think I recently saw someone doing it. I can't say it's my favourite. This is the 3rd time I was doing that because I kept on losing count, as you can see by that face right there. So it was getting confusing, and also the yarn gets all caught up. Excuse the sound of the washer. So that's it. Italian binder, cast on. It does. I'm gotta say I'm not a massive fan of it. It feels very like it's always going to come undone, like it's going to fall off the needles, or I found it sort of was twirling around, so I sort of had to readjust it and rotate it. But I did get the right amount of stitches, so that was good. But yeah, it's funny. It's sort of not very. It's not a very neat looking edge. So this is the manual ball winding that I mentioned in the introduction, where I plonk myself in the middle of a room, much to the distress of Robin, who then has to try and find a way around me and the many bits of yarn that are flying about everywhere. It's very economical and it does the job. It takes a little while, evidently, because it would never be as fast as the ball winder and the yarn holder, but it works. Sometimes I do wonder how much it would just be so much easier if I just bought the things. Sometimes I have a habit of, I don't want to have to spend money on something that I can do myself. But I also think that it would make my life probably a hell of a lot easier. And ball winding is sort of annoying because it really disrupts the knitting, and maybe sometimes that's quite nice because you can be getting too much into a rhythm and actually you need a bit of a break and a reason to stop. So maybe ball winding can be quite good because it's like a meditative thing to do. But also, sometimes you're really in the rhythm in a good way, and then you've got to wind a new ball of yarn, and it's just a pain in the bottom. Also, the 2-ply yarn that I did, I think I mentioned it before, that it was about 800 meters per hank, and that took, I swear it took all day. It just took forever. And also it sort of gets tied up and into knots and all sorts, so I was back broken. So what you're seeing here is I've cast off those middle stitches where that main cable is, and now I'm splitting off both sides of the front, so working the front left and the front right, and I believe this is the front right. Very annoyingly, I did not have my detergent with me for wool, so I did ask online, and it said you could use a bit of conditioner, and this is Child's Farm, which is like it's very safe for children, and it's very I don't know, for some reason I think it's good, and I use it for myself, for my own hair, and it is very good. But yeah, I just use a very tiny amount to block the sweater with, or just to block the front with. I should say I also bought some stitch holders from Petite Knit, those white sort of cable things you can see, which I'm sure you all know about anyway, but man, they are excellent. They've made knitting a lot easier. So that is one thing I would spend my money on. I think I was apprehensive that my knitting would fall off those cables while I was sliding them through. And it only happened once, and it was very easy to get them all back on the needles, or rather to get them back on the cables. But they have just been a really good, before I was using other knitting cables and then putting a stopper on them. But eventually you run out of cables. I found joining the shoulders to be sort of quite fiddly work, obviously, because you're working between 3 needles. But the other thing that I had to bear in mind was that you're working in pattern. So for this bit, obviously, it means you're working in seed stitch. And I think if you don't leave it at the right places on the front and the back, let's say you did an extra row because you got confused. Not saying that happened to me, but no, it did happen to me. I think I did do 1 or 2 extra rows by mistake. But the reason I mention it is because it means that you might be at a different point in the seed stitch. So when it mentions you should be a knit or purl, you might be a purl and knit. And then it just means at that section between the shoulders, it might just be not as neat as it would be if you'd gotten it right. Yes, this is just a little extra thought to think about if you're like me, and you sort of in the moment you think, oh, it doesn't matter. It's not that it does matter necessarily, but it's there is a consequence to it, basically, but not a very big deal. I don't know about anyone else, but when you knit sleeves flat, they seem to go faster. It's sort of not really logical that that's true, but it does feel that way, like it goes really, really fast compared to when you're doing it in the round. So I sort of prefer it, maybe. but then you do have to seam them, so it's a bit different.